Hidden in the misty landscapes of China stand monuments of extraordinary mystery and power, ancient mausoleums that have guarded the secrets of emperors for millennia. Why are the great pyramids of China still buried? Why aren't archaeologists uncovering them and opening them up? We're going to get answers today as we embark on an epic investigation into these monumental tomb complexes, exploring the fascinating stories buried beneath their towering forms, and going to the sites ourselves to see what we can find. Come along with us as we walk in the footsteps of history, discovering what we can about ancient Chinese pyramids and uncovering the awe-inspiring story of China's first two imperial dynasties in the process. Welcome to Antiquities Explorer, your guide to historic places. Follow us to different countries as we search for ancient artifacts. If you too wish to explore the ancient past through travel, we'll help you plan where to go, what to see, and how best to enjoy what you encounter. In this series of the AE, you can accompany Tina and me on our trek through China, homeland of the ancient Han, Bo, Miao, Di, Weiji, Jiang, and Rao. Come on, let's go! Having left Sanmenxia, the hub of the ancient Gua state, which we explored in our last episode, Tina and I made our way to the city of Xi'an. As we headed west, I noticed how the terrain was gradually becoming more mountainous. Off to our left is Mount Hua, called Huashan in Chinese, one of China's 5 great mountains. Historically, it was a retreat for hermits. There's a famous hiking trail going up it, made in the early Tang dynasty, and brave people test their courage on the dangerous path even today. Maybe next time. Serving as the capital for dynasties like the Qin, Han, and Tang, the city of Xi'an was the center of Chinese civilization for centuries. Its rich and dynamic history is reflected in the many names it has held during all that time. The twin capital cities of Feng and Hao sat on its western side during the Western Zhou dynasty, some 3,000 years ago. The Qin dynasty had their capital city Xianyang on the northern end. In the Western Han dynasty, the city became known as Chang'an, meaning perpetual peace. Chang'an grew to become one of the greatest cities of the ancient world, a bustling hub of trade and culture along the Silk Road. Briefly called Daxing during the Sui dynasty, the name reverted back to Chang'an in the Tang dynasty, during which time it reached its zenith as the capital of a cosmopolitan empire. It was only later during the Ming dynasty that the city was renamed Xi'an, meaning Western Peace, reflecting its geographic and strategic importance in China's western regions. We got a nice little B&B here, and look at the view outside. Look at the mountains, huh? This is fantastic. My understanding is that there are 38 structures in and around Xi'an that could be considered pyramids, and that they sit under unexcavated mounds within the mausoleums of ancient emperors. Well, we're going to check 3 of them out today, to see what we can find out about them. Not every mound has a pyramid underneath it, of course. Sometimes we're just looking at hills or mountains. That's what these are. But some mounds, even if they have vegetation growing on them, are clearly artificial. The question is, are there really pyramids under there? That's what we're here to find out. Our adventure begins at the mausoleum of Qin Shihuang, the first emperor of China. This larger-than-life leader unified the warring states, laid the foundations for the Great Wall, and commissioned a burial complex so grand it remained hidden for millennia. Not only will we stand before his terracotta army, but we'll visit parts of his mausoleum that you probably don't even know exist, including the site of the main monument itself. There are 2 parts to the Emperor's Mausoleum site, speaking from a tourist perspective. One is the Terracotta Warriors and Horses Museum. This is by far the most popular part of the site. and it's the one we're visiting first. The other part is the Mausoleum Archaeological Park, aka Lishan Garden. More on that later. As is the custom at most Chinese museums and archaeological sites, visitors need to make a reservation on the site's WeChat account. And for this place, I recommend a couple of days in advance because it is in high demand. This is, after all, one of the country's most popular tourist destinations, and for good reason. The entry fee is 120 CNY, which is about $16.40 in US money.
Here we are.
In 1974, a group of local farmers near here stumbled upon fragments of pottery while digging a well. Little did they know they had uncovered one of the most extraordinary archaeological finds of the 20th century, the Terracotta Army. This accidental discovery quickly drew the attention of archaeologists, who flocked to the site to investigate. Over time, they confirmed that the artifacts were part of the Grand Mausoleum complex of Emperor Qin Shihuang, the first ruler to unify China during the Qin dynasty in the 3rd century BCE. The Terracotta Warriors and Horses Museum is divided into 3 main sections, number 1 pit, number 2 pit, and number 3 pit, named in the order of their discovery. The first and largest pit, which houses rows of life-size terracotta warriors, was opened to the public in 1979.
To avoid the crowds, they say you're supposed to come in the early afternoon. Our schedule just doesn't work like that. But they say early afternoon is best. Okay, so this is pit 2.
You might ask, why does it look like that? It looks like that because it's only partly excavated. There are the remains of structures under there.
Here we are at pit number 2. It was discovered in 1976. And you can see some broken figures in here, but there were over 1,000 figurines that were in this pit. Most of them have been taken out. The purpose of the figurines, you may wonder, you saw earlier we showed small figurines that were in people's tombs, some of them of servants and warriors and things like that. These replaced the earlier human sacrifices. Okay, they thought, well, it's human sacrifices, maybe we don't have to go that far. So they believed that if they made these figurines of servants, there would be the spirits of servants that would help them in the afterlife. Well, that's what these terracotta warriors also did. They were warriors that were going to protect the tomb of the emperor. And so they're funerary figurines, just like we've seen elsewhere, just on a much larger scale.
Construction of the mausoleum may have begun when King Zheng, as he was known then, ascended the throne in 247 BCE at just 13 years of age. In that case, construction would have taken nearly 4 decades, since it continued after he died in 210, with his successor Huang supervising its completion until work ceased abruptly in 208 due to a massive peasant uprising.
Look at the tile floor there.
This rebellion likely explains why Pit 4 remains empty, as workers were conscripted to quell the unrest. But others have proposed a shorter timeline, starting after the emperor unified China in 221, due to the project's monumental scale. Some of the timber originated from Hunan and Hubei provinces, regions outside Qin's control before unification, underscoring the logistical challenges involved.
Archaeologists still at work. Work here continues. Very methodical, very slow. It makes some people very unhappy that archaeology is so slow, but that's just how the dirt falls. Apparently, here in pit number 2, archaeologists have not penetrated into the interior of the building structures yet because they don't feel qualified to do a good job at this point because of where technology is right now, I guess. Here we have an example of, this is one of the generals. There were only 7 generals found in the pits. All of the warriors have different ranks, and you can tell by the way this armor is, what they're wearing on their heads, their shoes. The higher they curled up, the higher rank they were. Armor style. Those who have little bellies like this. See, this means you're higher in status if you have a little belly. It means you eat well.
Discovered in 1976, pit number 2 was unveiled to the public in 1994. Excavations revealed over 1,300 life-size terracotta warriors and horses, along with 90 wooden chariots. Pit number 2 is renowned for its variety and detail, housing soldiers in diverse formations such as cavalry, infantry, archers, and charioteers. Close inspection of the warriors reveals that no two figures are identical. Craftsmen sculpted the heads individually, basing them on real-life models, while the bodies were produced using molds. The artisans took great care in representing different military roles. Archers, kneeling figures, and commanding officers are easily distinguishable by their postures and clothing. Lower-ranking soldiers often wear simple robes and either light or heavy armor, depending on their unit. Some lack painted patterns on their armor and carry weapons like swords or halberds. Middle-ranking officers are identifiable by their double-plate long crowns and more intricate armor. These officers stand in formations as leaders or assistants to senior commanders. High-ranking officers are depicted with more elaborate details, such as double long robes, careful fish-scale armor, and pheasant crowns. Their hands are often crossed in front of their abdomen, holding ceremonial swords, signifying their commanding status. Artisans crafted the warriors in part from clay, assembled them and carved details before firing them in kilns. Heads were sometimes fired separately and attached later. Finally, the warriors were painted with natural pigments refined from minerals, giving them vibrant colors. However, due to a lack of preservation technology, these vivid hues faded within minutes of exposure to air after excavation. Archaeologists have also found approximately 80 identifiable names carved or stamped on various parts of the figures, such as the hips or underarms. These are the names of the artisans who crafted the warriors. Oh, look at the horses. Archaeologists unearthed pit number 3, also in 1976. The smaller pit is thought to have served as the command hub, or military tent, for the terracotta army, so to speak. It officially opened to the public in 1989, displaying 68 terracotta warriors, a war chariot, and 4 horses. Despite its modest size, pit number 3 holds significant importance in understanding the organization of the Qin military forces. More than 40,000 bronze weapons have been recovered across all the terracotta army pits, many of which are copper-plated. These include swords, daggers, crossbows, arrowheads, spears, halberds, axes, and billhooks. More decent examples were found here than in the main pit, which was plundered for its weapons. Despite being buried for over 2,200 years, many weapons remain sharp and gleaming, showcasing the advanced metallurgical skills of the Qin dynasty. Look at the different hairstyles and hats of the various warriors, all symbolizing different positions and status. According to estimates based on the density of terracotta warriors and horses unearthed during trial excavations, approximately 6,000 figures were buried in pit number 1. These figures, of course, are only part of the larger terracotta army, which totals over 8,000 warriors spread across all 3 pits. About 6,000 in pit 1, 1,300 in pit 2, and 70 in pit 3. It is believed that further archaeological work will reveal even more figures in the future. Yes, archaeological work here is still ongoing. Just here at the Terracotta Warriors section of Mausoleum. You might be thinking, what? They found this back in the 1970s. How could they possibly still be working on it? Why is it going so slow? Archaeology is slow, folks. There is a lot of data collection that needs to be done. Scientific analysis of all the artifacts. Think about the thousands upon thousands. There are hundreds of thousands of artifacts that have been found just here. And then, of course, there's the site itself. So there is so much to analyze. They've got to put the pieces back together, right? Every single individual artifact has to be cataloged and analyzed, examined, all of that, and recorded. You can only do it once. Once you take it out of its original location, that's it. It's not the same. So you got to do it right. That's how archaeology is. It's slow. But it's better to be slow and do it right than to be fast and mess things up. The warriors were arranged in military formation, with each figure once holding weapons that have since disappeared. If you're wondering why no female warriors have been discovered among the terracotta army, historical records explain that women in the Qin dynasty could serve, but only in emergency backup forces, not in regular military units. Since the terracotta army represents the emperor's standing forces, it makes sense that there are no female soldiers.
Ting Ting says that she heard a guide say that the models chosen for the faces, they picked the most handsome men of the time. So we're looking like at the Qin ideal of the most attractive men. This is the creme de la creme, the jewel of the mausoleum, the pit number 1. This is where the most warriors can be found, and these ones here are in their original locations. All of them, notice, are facing in one direction. They're facing towards the east. Now you might be wondering, why are they all facing towards the east? It's kind of a mystery. There's a few different theories. One theory is that to the east was the lands that the emperor wanted to conquer, or that they were lands that were already conquered, and these warriors are defending them from revenge from those lands. Another theory is that to the east was where he believed the secret of immortality was. He wanted to live forever, and maybe they're all facing in that direction. But really, we don't know for sure.
Over its 2,200-year history, the terracotta army has endured natural and human-inflicted damage. Evidence of flooding has been observed in pit number 1, where the setting walls have sunk to nearly half their original height. Additionally, many of the warriors' bronze weapons were missing during excavation, suggesting that the pits were looted. Experts believe that Xiang Yu, the overlord of the western Chu state, and his troops may have plundered the pits to acquire weapons for battle. Signs of fire damage have also been discovered. Charred timber, burnt soil, and remnants of hemp rope were found in some of the pits. Historical records point to Xiang Yu as the likely perpetrator of this destruction. He had strong motives for targeting the mausoleum. Qin Shihuang had destroyed Chu and killed members of Xiang Yu's family, giving him reason for revenge.
The set museum was closed, so we missed out on seeing some of the interesting artifacts displayed in it. However, there was more to see.
Located just over a mile from the terracotta warriors, the Mausoleum Site Park, or Lishan Garden, is easily accessible via free shuttle buses provided for visitors. But we couldn't find them.
All looks good to me. All looks good. I think we are far away from my car.
We ended up walking through the shopping area, which was really nice, by the way. Lots of places to eat and shop. And so since we were headed back towards the car anyway, we decided to just drive over to the mausoleum ourselves.
So, the best thing to do when you get to the mausoleum site is to take the tram. The tram's 15 CNY per person, and it goes all around, and then you can get off and on as you see fit. So it's not only the mausoleum here, but there are other pits. So we're going to look at those too, so it should be interesting.
Located southeast of the Emperor's tomb, between its inner and outer city walls, Pit K9901 is an underground, tunnel-style structure. The pit features 2 rammed earth beams and 3 passages running from east to west, with doorways at both ends. The structure collapsed after a fire, but excavations have revealed fascinating discoveries. Artifacts from the pit include over 20 pottery figurines and 2 bronze tripods.
These pits are much closer to the mausoleum, you see. Nothing much in the pit now.
Among the figures are acrobats depicted with naked torsos and short, colorful skirts. Life-sized and posed dynamically, these figures display humor and vitality.
What makes Pit 9901 interesting is that the figurines found here were civilian in nature, not warriors. Acrobats, entertainers, and other people, but acrobats particularly. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's not my body.
Archaeologists speculate that additional bronze wares, as well as chariots and horses, may still lie buried in the pit.
Look at these are walls here, see? I wonder what that is.
I want to take the photo there.
In 1980, 2 elaborate bronze chariots with horses were excavated from a nearby pit. These are the largest and best preserved bronze carriages ever found in China, and offer critical insights into ancient bronze craftsmanship and vehicle design.
I'll tell you, the Chinese really know how to make museums. Every museum has been designed really well, very much up to date. It's been great. They know about the visuals, how to make it look good, you know?
The chariots highlight the opulence of the first emperor's imperial convoy.
The 2 chariots that you see here are imperial chariots of the kind that Qin Shihuang would have used, and they are the best preserved carriages of ancient China ever found in archaeological history here. They're just beautiful. But we would not know very well how imperial carriages looked without something like these. These are made of bronze, by the way, and you can still see some of the color on them. And they're in fantastic condition. Aren't they amazing?
These bronze models have survived in exceptional condition, unlike the real wooden carriages of the era, which decayed over time. To ensure the horses worked in harmony, the chariots were equipped with reins and side drives that maintained proper spacing between the animals, ensuring smooth coordination. These technical innovations demonstrate the precision and ingenuity of Qin engineers.
Here's a reconstruction of the umbrella on the imperial carriage. This is a bronze shield, model bronze shield, that was part of one of the chariots. I don't know why they don't still have it on it. It's a copy, I know. But I want to show what it looks like on the horse. That's a replica. This is a container for crossbow bolts. And here are some actual bronze bolts for the crossbow. Unfortunately, they don't have a surviving crossbow here. They have replicas, so this is what it would have looked like, but this is not original. This shows you the workings of the wheels of the chariots of the time, the parts, and so forth. The assembly of the wheel axle, the yoke for the horses.
Discovered in 2000, Pit K0006 is located at the southwestern corner of the mausoleum, within the inner city. Unlike most other pits in the mausoleum, this pit has not suffered fire damage, allowing for the preservation of wooden elements, such as floors, doors, and compartment boards. This section primarily contains 12 pottery figurines, which can be categorized into 2 groups, 8 civil officials and 4 charioteers.
So what you're looking at are, at the bottom, the remains of the paved wooden boards, paving boards, sorry to say. The ground of the pit was paved with wooden boards. They've decayed, but there are traces of them. That's how we know.
There are other pits you can visit here, including the Bronze Aquatic Birds Pit, the Rare Birds and Animals Pit, the Stone Armor and Helmets Pit, the Stable Pits, the Slaughter Pits, and the Builder's Graveyard. But we were short on time and wanted to get a better look at the tomb of the Emperor himself. Even though it's unexcavated, we wanted to get as close of a look as we could.
We're here at the burial mound of the first emperor, and here it's labeled the tomb of Qin Shihuang. And right behind me, you can't see much because it's all overgrown with trees and everything, but there's a big mound there. That represents the tomb of Qin Shihuang. It has not yet been excavated. There actually isn't much to see here. We're going to walk around a little bit, but you can't go in there. It's all fenced in. And you might be wondering, why haven't archaeologists worked on it yet? Why aren't they excavating? And there's some hesitation about this, a little bit of fear, because stories are that there is mercury inside of here, which of course is poisonous. Like, we're talking about an actual map of China on the floor of the tomb. This is according to Sima Chen, the historian, that the emperor made a map of China and had rivers flowing with mercury. So there's a bit of trepidation about breaking in and just going in and people being poisoned and all that. And also, we don't quite have the technology to do it right, so they are waiting for an opportune moment, as far as I know.
According to Sima Chen, a historian from the Han Dynasty, the tomb was constructed deep within the earth, lined with solid stone to ensure stability. A vermilion stone wall surrounded the structure, acting as a barrier to prevent groundwater intrusion, making the tomb effectively waterproof. Within this subterranean palace lay not only the emperor's final resting place, but also the burial sites of high-ranking Qin officials. It's estimated that nearly 720,000 workers were involved in building Qin Shihuang's mausoleum, roughly 8 times the workforce used to construct the pyramid of Khufu. While the exact number of workers is not truly known, the sheer size and intricacy of the project suggests that it required a vast labor force. At least some of the artisans who worked on the mausoleum met a tragic end. Following the death of Emperor Qin Shihuang, it is said that his successor, Huang, ordered the tomb's doors to be closed on the workers who were just finishing up inside, burying them alive, apparently to ensure that the location of the tomb's entrance would never be revealed.
Look, you can see the remains of a wall behind the fence there. It seems to go all the way around this mound. Well, let's go around the mound and see what we can find. You can see a bit more of the wall. Apparently it's a wall. Basically, we're just walking around a big mound with lots of foliage on it. But we're gonna head back because it's hot. But right back in there is the mound. Still needs to be excavated.
Next, we visited the mausoleum of Emperor Jing, a site built during a golden age of peace and prosperity in the Han Dynasty. The site is known as Han Yangling, Ling meaning mausoleum, and Yang being the place, and is located about 20 kilometers north of Xi'an, at the site of the ancient city of Xiangyang.
Now we are at Han Yangling. Here are imperial mausoleums of Han Dynasty.
The burial ground serves not only as the burial site of Emperor Jing, but also his wife, Empress Huang. Constructed in 153 BCE, less than a century after the one we just looked at, it spans 20 square kilometers and is the best preserved imperial mausoleum of the Han Dynasty. The mausoleum contains not only the emperor's and empress tombs, but burial pits to the north and south, a ceremonial site, a criminal cemetery, remains of ancestral buildings, and a human sacrifice graveyard. Yeah, human sacrifices. Although the custom was falling out of favor and figurines largely replaced human sacrifices, the first emperor nevertheless had select human sacrifices in his mausoleum complex, and the Emperor Jing here also did. One of the main monuments of Han Yangling is Empress Huang's tomb, located east of the emperor's central burial mound. This square-shaped structure, rising 80 feet above the ground, 24.5 meters, encircled by a pounded earth wall with gates on each side, and covering a tomb below, is a smaller yet equally intricate counterpart to the emperor's. 31 burial pits surround the empress's tomb, hinting at her significant but secondary role in the imperial hierarchy. At the heart of Han Yangling lies Emperor Jing's tomb. The Sacred Road, a wide ceremonial avenue flanked by over 8,000 satellite tombs of officials and nobles, leads to the tomb.
Oh. Huh? We found it. The tomb of Jingdi. Just as with the first emperor's tomb, the tomb here of Emperor Jingdi has not been excavated. The entire monument was surrounded by a wall, and there was a gate on each side. But we entered through the south gate, what would have been the south gate, which is the only way through at this point. However, what we can see is underground, because all around the tomb were burial pits. They found 86 burial pits. And we're going to go down and see a museum built right upon the pits.
Jing was the emperor's throne name. His personal name was Liu Qi. Liu is the surname held in common by the kings of the Han dynasty. And it also happens to be Tina's surname. But the name is common in China, so she probably is not a direct descendant. She's royal to me, though.
I guess we have to put on special shoe covers to go inside. Model of the area. People have asked me about Chinese pyramids. Well, you got a truncated pyramid. Does that count?
The creation of the structure involved layering clay above the tomb's underground palace, shaping and compacting each layer into a low trapezoid. They call it a square top because it has a square, flat top. When we get to our third mausoleum in a bit, we will see that this imperial tomb also is unexcavated. Surely there is something more to this story. Why are so many imperial tombs untouched, and only what surrounds them is being excavated? More on that later.
These are burial pits outside of the pyramid that you saw on that map, or on that model. So this is not inside the monument itself, but around it. See the remains of some figurines.
Around the emperor's tomb are 81 burial pits arranged radially around the central mound. 10 of the pits have been excavated, and the remains suggest they originally had brick floors, column frames, and separating boards and doors. They were designed to be enclosed spaces like wooden cases. The museum features suspended glass walkways that allow visitors an intimate view of the artifacts below. Toughened glass enclosures maintain distinct temperature and humidity levels, protecting the artifacts while offering a close-up experience. The pottery figures, smaller than those of the Qin terracotta army, measure about 20 inches, 50 centimeters, in height. Their softer style and focus on daily life reflect a frugality and peacefulness, emblematic of Emperor Jing's era. These figures, stripped of their original clothing and wooden arms by the passage of time, nevertheless remain astonishingly lifelike, capturing vivid expressions and gestures.
Here's a reconstruction of one of the pits with all new figurines, imperial carriages, and so forth. I saw that they're building another building outside, so this is only like partly open, so it's going to get better. And Empress Huang's tomb has not been excavated yet, but they are working over there. I should say they're in the midst of excavation over there.
The on-site museum displays unique cultural artifacts distinct from the more famous terracotta army. Its treasures reveal the emperor's commitment to stability and reform. Its less crowded atmosphere allows visitors to explore peacefully.
Again, you can see the figurines, how they're found, and then how the kind of clothes they must have had on at the time. I'm not sure how they did the arms. Oh, here's one with the arms on it. I think those are fake arms, but they're showing you how the arms went on.
A small museum in a separate building outside gave us a closer look at some of the treasures found in the burial pits found around the mausoleum complex.
The construction concept of the royal mausoleum in the Han Dynasty followed the views of life and death, the immortality of the spirit and all that, how you attend to the dead as if they are living. These are seals from Yangling. So these are decorative bricks with various mythological creatures on them. I assume for protection. Oh, look at this creature. It's like a snake tiger. Decorative brick with animals and trees. Oh, I love this decorative brick. Look at this. images on here. So apparently these are parts of roofs of the mausoleums, and the writing on the ends of them are benedictions of various kinds, blessings. See, they're actually quite long, as you can see. And of course we have our Han funerary figurines. You might say not as impressive as the Qin we just saw, but yes, they are smaller. They're more in keeping with, with the tradition. But they are servants to attend to the dead. Remember, the dead, the afterlife is treated much like this life. You need a lot of the same things. These had movable arms. And you can get an idea here of them fully dressed. Yeah, they had clothes on. They had clothes on. Some of these ones did, anyway, which have not survived. These are ceramic warriors from the southern burial pits. These items are from the eastern satellite grave. Look at all the livestock. Horses, cows, sheep. These heads from figurines gives you an idea of the looks of people of the time, how they did their hair and what was considered attractive, and yeah. Some of them still have the paint on them. There to serve. This is a chess game board, Chinese chess. Because you have to play chess in the afterlife, man. You're not going to give up chess.
Han Yangling is more than a burial site. It is a portal to a bygone era of harmony, simplicity, and grandeur, where the dead were honored as vibrantly as they had lived. It stands as a quieter, more introspective counterpart to the Qin terracotta army, offering a deeper, more humanized vision of ancient China. The third mausoleum we visited was the Grand Mausoleum of Emperor Wu of Han, the son and successor of Emperor Jing. Wu, personal name Liu Che, is sometimes called the Martial Emperor, as his reign expanded China's borders and propelled its culture to new heights. His resting place, filled with echoes of military triumph and cosmic ambition, reflects the grandeur of a civilization at its zenith. What revelations await us there? Rising 153 feet high, that's 46.5 meters, with a base measuring 787 feet on each side, that's 240 meters, the monument of Emperor Wu is an awe-inspiring symbol of imperial power.
Here we are, we finally made it to the tomb of the greatest emperor of the Han Dynasty, generally considered, Han Wudi. He reigned for decades, did many great things, and under that hill, all the trees and everything overgrown, is his monument. A huge, what looked like a pyramid with the top cut off. And this is part of a gigantic necropolis. They call the whole thing the Maoling Mausoleum, but it's basically a necropolis. And here he had tombs of his wives and ministers and nobles, about 20 of them. There are burial pits all around the pyramid that have been excavated. But that is where Han Wudi himself was, inside of that monument. Now, according to ancient Chinese records, this took 53 years to build. 277,000 workers worked on it. There are 400 burial pits around it for accompanying the emperor into death. This was a huge, massive undertaking. Let's go see what we can find. They're building something here. Looks like they're making preparations to make this place even better. It is a little out of date. Well, I guess that's all. Funny how we have to pay to see just a hill.
The Emperor's tomb stands outside of the Maoling Museum Park. The park entrance is a short distance away. The entrance fee is 75 CNY, which is about $10.30 in US money. Nestled within this historic site, the park offers a further look into the mausoleum complex. It blends Han Dynasty architecture with serene gardens, featuring symmetrical buildings and a circular fish pond. The museum's 2 exhibition halls flank the site, displaying relics unearthed from Maoling Mausoleum and surrounding tombs, including the celebrated treasures of Huo Chubing's tomb.
Oh,
Oh,
they like us.
they want to eat.
Yeah, they want us to feed them.
Yes.
Emperor Wu, the 7th ruler of the Western Han Dynasty, reigned for 54 years. He pioneered the Silk Road, linking China with distant lands and setting the stage for centuries of cultural exchange.
Here we have another truncated pyramid. It's like almost complete.
Oh, it dripped.
Well, there's something to be said about pyramid design. I think it's a geometric shape that anybody in the world could come up with. I mean, just look at a mountain and then just flatten the sides, you know? But there is the Emperor's tomb, a model of it. Did China have pyramids? You decide.
What lies beneath the trapezoidal monuments was an underground palace, also known as the Inner or Serene Palace, where the Emperor's body was laid to rest. Do you remember our visit to Mawangdui in episode 1 of this series? We got to see the wooden funeral chambers of the Marquis, his wife, and son, who lived around this time too. The wooden burial chambers were basically structured like little palaces. Well, the imperial underground palaces were like that, except more elaborate, featuring a front convenience hall for ceremonial purposes, winding corridors, and rooms for sacrificial objects. Of course, we only have a hazy idea because most of the tombs remain unexcavated.
The objects that you see here are all from the subsidiary burials. Here's a water pipe, ceramic water pipe. So this was for burning incense. Looks like it's gold-plated.
The gilt bronze horse, the museum's crown jewel, captures the raw power and grace of a standing horse, its head proudly raised.
Cool.
But outside, near the rear, is another tomb. Visitors can stroll through the tranquil square, cross the pond, and stand before the tomb of Huo Chubing.
What does that say? Huh? This huge hill that you see behind me, all overgrown now, is the tomb of Huo Chubing. He was one of Han Wudi's top generals. He had 2 great generals, Huo Chubing and Wei Qing. They won him many wars against the Xiongnu, their greatest enemy to the north. And to honor this great general, Han Wudi built him a tomb here, right here in his complex, his mausoleum, to be beside the emperor in death. This is a stone sculpture of an ox from the tomb of Huo Chubing. I guess it was outside of it. And here's a boar. Not in the best condition anymore. This is one of a
a monster preying on sheep. It's only like partly sculpted. It's interesting. It's like partly sculpted out of the rock. And this is a sculpture of an elephant.
But this one is interesting. Do you see the characters on it? There are 3 characters. And they say, Zuo Sikong, right? And that means, well, actually it's the name of an administration of the stone craftsmen. So they're putting their mark on here. But the Han Dynasty administration that takes care of stone sculptures, and that's their mark. The stone man. These are not like fully completed, you know, they're sort of like, they take a natural rock and then just carve a bit out of it to get a little bit of a shape, but they don't go all out, it looks like. These are the oldest, most intact, and most valuable stone carvings found among ancient Chinese large stone carvings. Okay, so we're looking at a war horse stomping, hoofing a Xiongnu invader.
Huo Chubing, along with his uncle, General Wei Qing, had 2 significant victories against the Xiongnu in the Battle of Henan in 127 and the Battle of Heshi in 121. But their most amazing victory was at the Battle of Mobei in 119. In one of the most grueling expeditions of the era, Huo Chubing and Wei Qing led 50,000 cavalry deep into the heart of Xiongnu territory. Crossing the harsh desert and striking far beyond the Great Wall, their forces dealt a crippling blow to the enemy, driving them to the far west and ensuring years of peace for the Han borders. The campaign also solidified the Great Wall's role as a defensive bastion, leading to its restoration and expansion under Emperor Wu. Huo Chubing's untimely death in 117 at the age of 23 left Emperor Wu mourning the loss of his brilliant general. And so he ordered a grand ceremonial funeral and the construction of a tomb near his own. General Wei Qing's tomb is also here on site. In fact, more than 20 attendant tombs are located here, containing the bodies of the emperor's relatives, concubines, and other notable military officers.
Today, the mound is crowned with a pavilion, which offers sweeping views of the entire site.
It's like a lookout point. Top of this hill, you can see the mound that we saw coming in here, and then there's another mound here.
But we wanted to get a fuller picture of the period in which these 3 mausoleums were constructed, and to that end, we made our way to the Qin Han Civilization Museum, a monumental new addition to the Shanxi History Museum.
The Qin Han Museum has many artifacts from Qin and Han dynasties. It costs 72 CNY or 10 US dollars.
Nestled near the National Archaeological Site Park of Qin Shihuang City, this remarkable museum is a tribute to the cultural and historical legacy of the Qin and Han dynasties. It opened its doors on May 18th, 2024, and we arrived there less than 3 months later.
Wow, it's kind of a Mount Rushmore.
This is the first museum in China to focus exclusively on these 2 pivotal dynasties.
Well, it looks like they got some good English captions here, at least for the general descriptions. Individual descriptions, not so much.
Designed by renowned architect Zhang Jinqiu, the museum's 7 main buildings, arranged to mirror the constellation of the Big Dipper, are interconnected by glass corridors.
Terracotta figurines here. I'm assuming they're from the first emperor's tomb, because they're life-size. I don't know of any other tombs that had life-sized terracotta statues. Although this one is not life-size, I'm not sure. So many thousands of terracotta figurines. They have plenty to go around to different museums. The currency of the period. When we think of coins, we think they're always round. Not so. The currency of this period is basically miniature agricultural instruments, miniature weaponry, and those were used as coins. So they shaped them like tools and so forth. Spades, right? Knives. Oh, the elites and wealthy of society minted their own private coins. Interesting. So here's the molds that they cast the coins in, the round ones anyway. These are bronze ingots. And they do have some writing on them. And these are coin molds as well, ceramic ones, and pottery nozzles. Oh, these are from the central government. I guess you pour the liquid metal through there? These are from the time of Huang Mang's currency reform. He made some major reforms economically. It did not go as well as he had hoped. Not because the poor, common people didn't like it, but because the elites of society didn't like it. Some more of these granaries, rice holders, shaped like granaries. I hope that by showing these things to you, you can get an idea of what things are, recognize them when you see them around. They're making the most of what they've got. There's a lot of flashy technological teaching aids and things like that in here, but not a ton of artifacts so far. Good ones, but not a lot of them. This is really cool. The first emperor, standardized the writing system in China. There were other ways of writing in the various states that he had unified. He wasn't having it. He shut down the way they were doing things. He abolished other writing systems. There's only one way to write Chinese script now, and that's one of his main claims to fame. And here we have a bronze edict tablet from his 26th year of reign showing this. Think how early this is. Right after the script is standardized, we have an example of the standardized script of Chinese writing from the Qin dynasty. Yeah, it was during Qin times that the original Great Wall was built. It's not the famous one, and it wasn't as great as the famous one, but it's the original. The purpose, of course, was to keep out the Xiongnu, to protect northern China from their pillaging. This is a model of a water lifting machine from the Han period. And this is a model of a mechanism used for smelting iron and used water power to do so. Isn't that cool? Ancient advanced technology, folks. Ceylon's paper making. We have some actual paper fragments from Bachao. Yeah, paper was invented in China. It's not the same as papyrus. You know what this is? This is a piece of ancient silk. Yes, they were exporting silk in this period. That's why they call it the Silk Road. And we actually have some of the silk from the time. Look at the remains of a boat. Oh my gosh. This looks like a river craft, not a ship, but still. An actual river boat. Look at that. The wood's still here after all this time. You know how hard it is to have wood preserved this long? Look at that. The conditions have to be right, A part of a bridge. These are wooden beams from a bridge. Where was the bridge? A Han period bridge that looked something like this. I still love looking at these model homes. I think if you were going to make a movie about ancient China, coming to a museum and learning how the houses looked and how people dressed would be the great way of doing it, doing the research for it. Oh, now look at these. They still have the paint on them. Persimmon glazed porcelain wine containers, Zhongs. I think they put some of their most beautiful works of art in this section. Some incense burners. This one's particularly nice, a golden one. Must have been made by a completely different civilization than the other ones. That's how some people on YouTube and the internet reason. These are green glazed pottery zhongs. A zhong is just a container. I guess a general word for container, something like that. And these are zun cups. They're a bit large for cups, but they're called zun. I just love these stone lintels with images on them. They're quite beautiful.
Stone lintels were features of stone-carved tombs, which often consisted of multi-chambered structures built from carved stone slabs, or a mix of molded bricks and carved stones. The construction process began with digging an earth pit into the ground. Stone blocks, meticulously prepared, were then assembled to create chambers resembling houses, designed to hold coffins and burial artifacts. Once the chambers were completed, the tomb entrance was sealed and a mound of earth was piled on top to mark the burial site. As you can see, these slabs were richly decorated with bas-relief images, depicting scenes of banquets, chariot riding, music, dance, designs, deities, and idealized portraits.
These are decorated hollow bricks. Now you might be expecting with all these images like, oh, are there any famous people? But these are, remember, largely from tombs. They represent servants, ministers, people like that, and they're often generic. So they're not representing specific people, just types of people. Cavalry. So basically we're seeing items from the Han period. I think you can kind of tell, I think even to the general person now, from what I've been showing you, you could probably tell Han Dynasty style, because there is a certain style of dress, right? These flayed bottoms, wide bell-bottom gowns, very popular in the Han period. Oh, this is interesting. Like we got musicians and dancers, entertainers of various kinds. Think about how fortunate we are as students of history to come across items in tombs. You want to call them a time capsule? You could, because, you know, what if our world developed where people just threw dead people in the ground and didn't put anything in there with them or anything like that? I don't think that would ever have happened because, you know, the human mind. But the fact that we have things like representations of people and houses and all these things that are from culture, music and dancing and all of these things, they put right in the tombs as if we were going to find it, so they could tell us about themselves, you know? When in actual fact, they didn't do it for that reason at all.
I found out some more about why so many of the imperial tombs of China remain unexcavated. Mind you, some are accessible, such as the tomb of the Emperor Xianwu of the Wei Dynasty, which we visited last episode, but that had been opened and looted a long time ago. China's State Administration of Cultural Heritage has put a restriction on the excavation of imperial tombs. Back in 1987, they came out with a statement that said that archaeologists will not be granted approval for the excavation of imperial tombs until protection technology is sufficiently improved. Their concern is for the integrity of the tombs, they don't want them collapsing, and the safety of the workers. This was reiterated in a statement in 1997, in which they said that due to the lack of scientific and technological conditions and the means for the protection of cultural artifacts, active excavation of large imperial tombs will not be carried out for the time being. They restated this position in 2010, advising archaeologists not to be too impetuous. That being said, excavations around the emperor's tombs are ongoing. I have to say that the period of the Qin and early Han dynasties has got to be one of my favorite periods of Chinese history. But you know what is another fascinating period? It's the time of Tina's favorite ancient dynasty, the Tang dynasty. In our next episode, we're going to tell you all about it by means of a visit to another imperial mausoleum, that of Emperor Gaozong, his wife Wu Zetian, China's only reigning female emperor, and their children. They ruled during the high point of the dynasty, and their mausoleum reflects that. You don't want to miss it, so be sure to subscribe.